Wow, this video has an interesting title, doesn't it? Anyone clicking on this video without knowing my channel probably would think I'm some sort of conspiracy theorist, but in reality it's the opposite. All for the sake of clickbait. Anyway, there's this video that's been circulating around and a lot of people have been sending it to me. For once, I will be addressing a video not on YouTube. I could only find it on bitchute, and it's pretty low quality, so please forgive me. On bitchute, it has almost 700,000 views, which is pretty insane on a non-YouTube video platform. It's 45 minutes long, and you know me, I don't have time to address 45 minutes of nonsense, so we'll jump around here and there. These doctors are taking turns to publicly speak out on the coronavirus. In other words, they are undermining it.
We have a lot of information to share. Americans are riveted and captured by fear at the moment. We are not held down by the virus as much as we're being held down by the spider web of fear. That spider web is all around us, and it's constricting us. And it's draining the lifeblood of the American people, American society, and American economy.
Okay, look, yes, I get the saying that the fear of the thing can be worse than the thing itself. I mean, if you're at home hiding under your bed 24/7 and won't even walk into the living room, then yeah, maybe you're overreacting quite a bit. And your reaction is, I guess, hurting you more than the virus itself. Or perhaps you fell victim to downstream effects. We have millions of Americans unemployed as a result, which is honestly horrible. But I would say this wouldn't have been as bad if we responded properly. The government is partly to blame here. And then there's the economy. As bad as it is, the US GDP was bound to fall no matter what. People getting laid off due to lockdowns is one thing, but if we didn't lock down, then people would die at a greater rate, and that contributes to hurting the economy also. There's no getting out of that. But at the end of the day, did we really create a spiderweb of fear that is worse than the virus itself? I would say no. COVID-19 is a serious pandemic, and we should be taking as many precautions as possible. If you want to say these precautions are overreactions, then I simply disagree with you. For me at least, human life is the most valuable thing in the world, and until there's a working vaccine out there, we can't truly return to normal. Until then, just put a mask on, please.
COVID-19 is a virus that exists in essentially two phases. There's the early phase disease and there's the late phase disease.
Excuse me, ma'am, but what in the world does that even mean?
In the early phase, either before you get the virus or early when you've gotten the virus, if you've gotten the virus, there's treatment. That's what we're here to tell you.
Well, thank goodness now there are some treatments that have been proven to be somewhat effective. That's one of the reasons the death rate is lower compared to before, despite the daily incident increases to be monumentally greater.
But we implore you to hear this, because this message has been silenced. There are many thousands of physicians who have been silenced from telling the American people the good news about the situation.
Okay, doctors come in all different shapes and sizes. Just because they hold MDs does not mean they won't spread false information. Of course, the majority of doctors are going to give you accurate and reliable information, but you're always going to find a few bad apples. And this applies to any career field out there. Now, I personally am always on the side of free speech. I think no matter who you are, you should be able to speak your mind without fear of legal punishment. However, this only protects you from legal punishment. It does not give you the right to a platform. So when you say that physicians are being silenced, if that is actually happening, which I don't even know if it is, then what you're really saying is that they're being blocked on social platforms, which by the way, the most popular ones out there are privately owned media, so they can censor whoever the hell they want. But if you're saying that the doctors are being jailed for speaking out, then that's a different story. Again, the right to free speech does not give you the right to a megaphone. And if a doctor is coming out and giving false information on a pandemic, which could cost many people their lives, then yes, I would want them off social media platforms as well.
Thank you, Simone, and thank you all for being here today. I'm Dr. Bob Hamilton. I'm a pediatrician from Santa Monica, California. I've been in private practice there for 36 years. And today I have good news for you. The good news is that children, as a general rule, are taking this virus very, very well. Few are getting infected. Those who are getting infected are being hospitalized in low numbers.
Okay, so this is, I guess, one relief. A few other viruses actually harm younger people and children more than older people. Interesting, isn't it? That's because many symptoms that certain viruses cause rely on the immune system to exacerbate it. That's right, your body defending itself can contribute to the severity of the disease itself. And since older people have weaker immune systems, they often suffer less when infected with some viruses. Oh, and also they have a higher chance of having pre-existing antibodies against similar viruses, which contribute to the adaptive immune defense. H1N1 is a great example of this. COVID-19 actually has some elements of what I just described. The coughing, for example, is partly due to your immune system trying to fight the virus, but instead it is the opposite here, with the elderly being more susceptible. Viruses that attack the lungs in particular are going to be more severe in elders. As you get older, you see a bunch of immune system changes, from a lower count of active B cells to impaired T cell division. It is expected, from as soon as we knew this was a respiratory illness, that children would generally be okay even if they are infected. It's great that you're telling us this, but please don't use it as a way to undermine COVID-19.
I also want to say that children are not the drivers of this pandemic. People were worried about initially if children were going to actually be the ones to push the infection along. The very opposite is happening. Kids are tolerating it very well. They're not passing it on to their parents. They're not passing it on to their teachers. And yes, we can send the kids back to school, I think, without fear.
Okay, so children spreading SARS-CoV-2 is a tricky topic. Because many schools close down in that children are less likely to get tested due to them usually presenting mild or no symptoms, it is difficult to get data on it. But a study published a few days ago suggests that children have just as much viral load as adults, and higher for children under the age of 5. If you have the same or higher viral load, logically speaking, you spread the virus just as easily. In addition, other viruses generally don't discriminate between age groups when it comes to spread, so there is no reason to believe COVID-19 behaves differently. Sorry, sir. I'm gonna have to believe the research over you.
I'm Dr. Stella Emanuel. I'm a primary care physician in Houston, Texas. I'm here because I have personally treated over 350 patients with COVID. And the result has been the same. I put them on hydroxychloroquine, I put them on zinc, I put them on Zithromax, and they are all well. For the past few months, I've taken care of over 350 patients. We've not lost one.
I can't speak for your own experiences, but I can speak for what the science says. If you say that you haven't lost a single patient after putting them on hydroxychloroquine, then good for you, and good for all your patients. But the science doesn't agree. Clinical trials have concluded that hydroxychloroquine helps in neither treatment nor prevention. I just don't get it. Why is it that we make such a big fuss over hydroxychloroquine? This video here was published on July 28th. By then, we already had other treatment options that have been proven to have some degree of effectiveness, such as remdesivir or dexamethasone. It seems that hydroxychloroquine is no longer approved for emergency use, so I'm not really sure what you're giving your patients now.
On top of that, I've put myself, my staff, and many doctors that I know on hydroxychloroquine for prevention, because by the very mechanism of action, it works early and as a prophylaxis.
Hydroxychloroquine is not without its side effects. To everyone watching this video, don't just take it randomly.
The study that made me start using hydroxychloroquine was a study that they did under the NIH in 2005 that say it works. They treated a patient that had hiccups with hydroxychloroquine, and it proved that hiccups is a symptom of COVID.
Apparently, those scientists had a time machine because they proved a symptom of COVID back in 2005. Also, I have no idea what you're thinking if hydroxychloroquine treating a hiccup somehow proved that hiccups are a symptom of COVID, because hiccups are not a symptom of COVID. I have way too many questions on your statement just now.
And let me tell you something. All you fake doctors out there that tell me, oh yeah, I want a double-blinded studies. I just tell you, quit sounding like a computer, double-blinded. I don't know whether your chips are malfunctioning, but I'm a real doctor. Have you ever seen a COVID patient? Have you ever treated anybody with hydroxychloroquine and they died from heart disease? When you do, come and talk to me. All of you doctors that are waiting for data, if 6 months down the line you actually found out that this data shows that this medication works, how about your patients that have died? You want a double-blinded study where people are dying? It's unethical.
Well, it seems that the double-blinded studies have come out, and it's not really looking good for you. Here's the thing, hydroxychloroquine has been approved for emergency use when we didn't have good evidence to back it up. You're not the only one who has prescribed this medication to COVID patients, but once the double-blinded studies have come out, it was no longer approved for use. It's that simple. There are other drugs out there that you should consider, and by the way, none of them are a cure. They're treatments, so it'd be nice if you stopped pushing around this cure word.
Dr. Gold asked me to talk about the lockdowns, how effective they were, and do they cause anything non-financial?
Oh no, it's Dr. Erickson. We're probably just gonna skip this since we already know the nonsense he's capable of spewing. Anyway, after this is a long session of Q&As, which we're going to skip over because I just feel like it.
This drug is super safe. It's safer than aspirin, Motrin, Tylenol. It's super safe, all right? So what the problem is in a lot of those studies, they did very, very high doses, massive doses, and also the recovery trial. They used 2,400 milligrams in the first day. All you need is 200 twice a week for prophylaxis. They used massive toxic doses, and guess what they found out? When you use massive toxic doses, you get toxic results. The drug doesn't work when you give toxic doses, okay?
Well, the recommended dosage is anywhere around 400 milligrams per day and a bit higher depending on what you're treating. If you actually went to read some of the protocols for hydroxychloroquine clinical trials, you'll see that patients generally received around that much, with a few exceptions, perhaps up to 800 for a single day. Not sure where you're getting the 2,400 milligrams from, but I personally haven't seen that in any of the protocols so far.
It's a very safe drug. It concentrates in the lungs, 200 to 700 times higher in the lungs.
If it concentrates in the lung, it wouldn't be effective against malaria. Plus, that statement itself is just false anyway, since hydroxychloroquine mainly affects immune cells. Not sure how it can do that if it only goes to the lungs. Anyway, this video is too long and I can't watch anymore. Maybe a part 2 coming. Maybe.